Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm Arielle. Arielle. I know I say that I'm stoked for like every podcast, but I have personally seen you grow so much in the last 2 years. This conversation versus the conversation we are about to have versus like our very first conversation. I just can't wait to see what you say over like the next hour. And I'm sure listeners will relate to a lot of your story. And I really want to hear what you're up to now. I know listeners want to hear what you're up to now. You've been on the podcast once. I think it was last year or the year before, right?
Yeah, it was last year, almost a year. Actually, it was a year ago last month. Yeah.
Was it? Oh, okay. Cause I knew it was either coming up or it just passed. I couldn't remember with all the chaos in the world. So I will let you go ahead and introduce yourself. And if you could share a little bit about your story over maybe like the last 2 or 3 years and how that led you to kind of what you're doing today. And then we can kind of talk about what you're doing today and how you can help our listeners.
All right. Well, I am Arielle Kuchel, and I live in Kingsley, Iowa with my husband and our 1.5-year-old daughter. I guess over the last couple years, well, let me just start with before I started working with you. Cody and I tried to get pregnant for a couple years, and we had a bunch of different testing going on, and we weren't having any luck. They did kind of give us a reason for on Cody's end of things, and he ended up having surgery and everything was fine. So I was like, great, we're going to get pregnant right away, just like the doctor said, and it didn't happen. And once again, we were back to square one with no answers, nothing coming up on tests. And it was just kind of like a waiting period, which created a ton of anxiety that I was already dealing with. And I was just going crazy. But I mean, I fully trust in God's plan and his timing and everything. So at that time, I just kind of gave everything to him. And we went on with our lives, I guess. And then 1 month when we weren't even really trying, I ended up getting pregnant, and now we have our daughter. So once I got pregnant, I started listening to your podcast. I'd seen a few different people posting about it, and I'm kind of like, everybody's talking about it. I don't want to listen to it. But
I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, everybody's on that bandwagon. No, thank you.
Yeah, I know. It took me like 2 months, and then I'm like, whatever, I'll just do it. And I don't remember what podcast it was that I turned on, one of them. And it was like you were talking directly to me. So then I had to follow you on everything. And I think you had said something about your journey for your daughter, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So then I had talked to you a couple times just through Messenger, I think, and you'd reached out, and I think it was right before I had Kendall. So you were like wishing me good luck and stuff, and then right after I had her, I think reached out again, which I was super thankful for, because like none of my friends had kids. So I was like, this is so cool that she wants to help me be a mom.
I love that. I was just like genuinely checking up on you because like I see, people may think that like I don't pay attention to like who talks to me or who messaged me or who emails me or who follows me, but I very much pay attention to those things. And so I just had a feeling, I'm like, I wonder how she's doing. And you just kind of like listen to that. And it's just a simple like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. And that's all it was too. And I was just like, okay, like I think I want to do this whole coaching thing that I've heard about, but I had mentioned it to Cody, and I was like, yeah, so I really like this girl, Sasha Davis, like she's a life coach. And he's like, okay, no. Like, he was like, I don't know what a life coach is, but you don't need one. You're just fine, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. You're right. And then I think it was like a month later, and we had talked again, and you had posted on Instagram a picture that was like a quote, and it was that emotional baggage gets passed down from generation to generation until someone is brave enough or has enough courage to stand up and break that generational curse, or whatever you want to call it, break the trend. And I just started bawling because I was like, okay, like this speaks exactly to me. I need you in my life. And I think I emailed you and I set up our first call like that night. I was like bawling to Cody, and he was like, yeah, whatever you need. Like, if you think you need a life coach, that's a great idea. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going for it. And yeah, I guess that was like the beginning of where everything shifted, and I just feel like a completely different person. And that was only a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, and I can totally relate to the husband thing. And I'm sure. Do you want a pear? Okay, my kids are here, so no pear. Okay, but I can totally relate because like when I first started this whole journey, and like I was listening to a podcast, and I was I was doing all the things, and I was trying to find things to help myself, and finally I found somebody who I was like, I think this woman can help me. And when I told my husband about it, he's like, how do you know this isn't just some freaking internet scam? Like, you're just going to give this person like your money. You've never met her. You've never, and I'm like, you don't understand. And I feel like a lot of men are very black and white. Like they want to see like numbers on a paper. What's my return on investment? And I think as women, we are much more like, is this going to solve my problem? Is this going to help me feel better? Because we're just emotional buyers, I think. And this may not relate to everybody, but I think in general, men are very logistical brain and women are very emotional brain. Like, how can I feel better? Is this going to solve my problem? He told me like, hell no, basically. And so the rebel in me was like, well, I'm going to do this anyways. And I'm going to show you. And yeah, I think it only took a couple, 2-3 months of somebody helping you kind of get out of your own way. And then it was like, boom, the momentum was going. And I mean, that was, I don't even remember how long ago, but you were very, very similar in that sense. I know you had the support of Cody. He was just like, go for it, do it, da, 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 da. But I mean, in a very short amount of time, you were, I hate to even use the word hustler, but it kind of was, because you were like, I'm done with excuses. Like, we are running with it.
Yeah. I was like, I get so in my head about things. I mean, you know this, but like when an idea comes and I'm like, this is such a good idea. But then I'm like, should I do that? What are people going to think? And like, am I worthy enough to do that? And so as soon as you gave me the permission basically to be like, yeah, you deserve that, go for it, it was like game on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's nice to note that even like the things that you're doing now, and we'll get into that in a minute, these were not even a thought on our first conversation. Like, these unfold after you kind of sift through the bullshit stories that we tell ourselves, right? So like when we first signed up, or when we first started talking, and same thing with me, like when you first start like the process, you have all of these underlying limiting beliefs that you don't even know are really holding you back. And once you can kind of work through those stories, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I could do this. And then, you work through that. So just know that like it's part of the process too, for anybody listening. If you're like looking to invest in a coach or a program or something like that, like what you start with and what happens at the end, like it's nothing short of magic.
No, magic is like the perfect description, because I seriously, it's not a joke or like a cliche when I say I'm a completely different person than I was a year and a half ago when we had our first like actual coaching conversation.
So tell listeners how you felt the day before we talked. Like, what was a day in the life, and then what is a day in the life now?
So before we talked, I was super, I think overwhelmed would be one of the best descriptive words. Everything was just overwhelming to me. Like, Kendall crying was overwhelming, and just the one little thing not going my way was overwhelming. And my initial reaction to overwhelm or things not going my way was just anger. And it wasn't just like, oh, that really pissed me off. It was like, dang it, that really pissed me off. I'm mad at the entire world for an entire day. And now nothing is going to go right the rest of the day. So I might as well just call it a loss. Like, I was so dramatic with everything. And it's like one little thing goes wrong and everything's done. Like, can't fix it. I didn't really have a plan or goals. I mean, I had like travel goals, like everybody wants to travel, but like I didn't have like, and I knew like what I wanted for a family, but that was basically it. Like I didn't have work goals, or like personal goals, or I don't know. I literally, when I look back, I'm like, what was I doing with my life? Like, what did I do with my life and my time and my thoughts? And I don't know, it's just wild. But now when something happens or like goes wrong or not according to my plan, yes, I still get a little upset. Like that's not going to change, but it's not like earth-shattering upset. And I sit there and I feel it for a few minutes, and then I think about something I'm grateful for or do something that makes me happy, and I immediately am doing something to like switch my mindset into a positive mindset and like a grateful or thankful mindset, and I just go on with my day. I don't want to burn the world.
I love that. Well, and it is, it's very time consuming. It's energetic, like energy consuming. And a lot of times you feel exhausted afterwards if you give all of your power to a certain thing or a person or something else that you may or may not have control over. And I think it's important to note that you said, you know, I feel the feeling and then I choose differently. I think a lot of times people get confused with like, oh, I'm just going to ignore this feeling, or I'm going to dumb it down, or I'm going to pop a pill, or I'm going to slam a beer, or, you know, they try to like numb that feeling. And it's like, well, no, you're not numbing it, because then it's just being stuck in you and it is consuming you and it will erupt later on. It's like building that pressure in the volcano. And so I think it's important to say, okay, I'm angry. This emotion is validated, like, but I'm going to consciously choose different. I'm not going to ignore it with positivity. I'm not going to pretend like it never happened. I'm going to validate how I feel right now. This sucks. Yes, I'm still a little upset. I'm not going to let it consume me. I'm going to choose to think differently. I'm going to change my mindset by focusing on something that I'm grateful for. So I think that it's just really important to note that, because I feel like a lot of people just kind of skip that step.
I still sometimes skip that step. I don't have it perfected, but most of the time
It's a practice.
Yeah, most of the time I can consciously like go through the motions, but a lot of times it just helps to like, when I'm really freaking out, to just say, okay, I need to sit down for a second and journal everything that's in my mind and get it out, and then I'm automatically like back to normal.
Absolutely. And again, like, it's not something that you just, like, even to this day, like the other day, I lost it. Like I just exploded and I'm like screaming and I'm like, stop needing things from me. Like, you can't help it sometimes. You just like, boom. And then I was like, why am I so angry right now? They're just kids. They're just dogs. Like, it's nobody's fault. Like, I just need to take a chill pill. And it's like, but it's okay to feel angry and overwhelmed, because in that moment of my life, like, there was a lot of things that felt out of control. And it's like refocusing, like, what do I have control over? So you can have those explosions and you can do those things. It's a practice. That's why we do it every single day. That's why like personal development and like mindfulness and bringing awareness to like our thoughts and our feelings and not just like shoving them aside. It will just help you build a deeper relationship with yourself, that deeper connection with yourself. And then you can start to show up as your better or best self for your family and for others. And then they're not getting like a half-assed, exhausted, drained version of you.
Yes, especially like right now with all the quarantine and all the social distancing stuff that's going on, I have felt those feelings more often. And I've noticed that it's like the days that I don't wake up to work out and journal and have my alone time before Kendall wakes up, like I've definitely noticed I have to fill my cup before the day starts. Otherwise, those emotions are way more often.
Oh, absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. The few times that, you know, or even like myself, like I've been doing this for years. I see that. Wow. We need to wash that off. Should mark her over her hand now. But yeah, the days that like I am like, oh, just 5 more minutes, or oh, I'll get to it later. I notice literally by like 9 or 10 a.m. Go draw on it, honey. She's having a rough morning. Oh. That I'm like so short fused that like her like climbing all over me and wanting things from me, and it would send me over the edge if I didn't take the time to say like, okay, I need to find things that give me energy and bring me joy before these little kids get up and need every ounce of energy I have, or like even like my clients too. So yes, I find that that's very important. So what else do you do in terms of like self-care, if anything, like throughout the day, if you find that you're getting like agitated or things like that?
So if I have my workout done before Kendall wakes up, so on a regular day, I try and work out, journal, and do a little personal development, or just sit in silence, because I know that as soon as Kendall and Cody wake up, there's no more silence. So I really just try and take that all in, which is crazy because I used to tell my mom that silence gives me a headache. So I just really like silence now. But throughout the day, if Kendall's napping, or even if she's just playing on her own, sometimes I'll just sit and like, hopefully we can get outside, but I'll just sit and like take in everything around me. And when we're outside, I love to just sit with my feet like barefoot in the grass and like focus on the things that I'm feeling and the things that I'm seeing. And when I do that, my heart like literally explodes with like gratefulness. It's crazy. Like just the smallest things, like the birds chirping and like just watching Kendall play on her own and discover things, like that brings me so much joy.
I would call that being present. It's like taking in that very moment. And when we are present is when we are happiest.
Yes. That is like, I try and do that as much as I can. But even just like if we're driving and she's freaking out and it's like making me start to freak out, I just try and get her calmed down, or I turn on some like personal development or one of your podcasts, just something that like makes me realize that this isn't going to last forever. Like her freakouts really they take a lot out of me. Like I just want to be able to like, fix it right then, and you can't always do that. So I have to like do something to make myself realize that it's not going to last forever.
Yeah, you have to have like a trigger to snap you out of it. And that's where like all of these little reminders come into place. I tell people, put a Post-it note on your bathroom mirror, right on your wrist. Not that like I feel like everybody should draw on themselves, but sometimes it's nice to have that reminder, or get like a bracelet that says a saying on it that every time you look at it, you take a deep breath, or put like a background on your phone that every time you look at your phone, you're like, oh yes, be present, calm down. Like it's all okay. You just have to trick yourself into remembering what works best.
Yes, I have Post-it notes everywhere since working with you. So
I do too. I have reminders all over my house. Will's like, what the fuck does this mean? I'm like, just leave me alone.
Yes, don't worry.
Read it and just do it. Like, okay. So let's talk a little bit about like goals and things like that. You mentioned earlier, like your goals were basically like travel things, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is a common thing with many women, or just people in general, where they're like, I don't really have goals, or I don't know how to set goals, or we think too much about them to where we just overanalyze and we shut down. And we're like, oh, this seems too hard. That's impossible. That's never going to happen. So when we first started working together, you wanted to, I know you wanted to build a business. You wanted to impact more people. We didn't exactly know what that looked like in the beginning, but can you kind of walk people through that process, on your end, your perspective, what that process looked like? And then let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now, and how that's just unfolded over like the last year. It is just like mind blowing.
Oh, it is. It's been a wild ride. But when we first started working, I was just working for our family roofing business. And then I was doing some Young Living essential oils, which I still do. But that's not like my main focus. I love to get people started with oils. But I really love creating things. And it's so funny because I think back to, I went to see a psychic in August. Not this last one, but the one before that, which was, we started working together like the week of Thanksgiving. So it was August before that. And she was like, "You're really creative." And I was like, "No, I'm not." And she's like, "You need a creative outlet." And I'm like, "No, I don't." And it's just funny. Like, I didn't even remember that she said that to me until like a month ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Sonia was right. But so I knew I wanted to have a business. I wanted to have my own business, and I wanted to help people. And that was basically all I knew. I didn't know really anything of what that was going to look like. I was doing daycare for some family members out of my home. And well, technically, I guess I was on maternity leave when we started working together. And I was about to go back to work for daycare. And they came back, and I love those kids to death, but I just was not in the right headspace for it anymore. Like, having my daughter there, it was just so different. And I'm like, this just isn't what makes me happy anymore. Like, I need something different. And when talking to my family members, like, everybody was on board with the same thing. So we decided to part ways, daycare wise. And I'm like, what am I going to do for income? Like, I need to do something. So at that point, I felt like pressure, like, oh my gosh, I need to do something, but I still didn't know what it was. And then when I started journaling and kind of, thinking about things I like to do and what I can make that other people might like I realized I was already making soy candles with essential oils because I'm obsessed with candles. I used to hoard Bath and Body Works candles, and at one point I literally counted them and I had 58. And I hope Cody doesn't listen to this podcast because he'll kill me.
58 fucking candles? Holy shit.
Yeah.
You sound like me in swimsuits and me in jeans.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm right there with swimsuits too, but those candles were like amazing.
Oh,
but
that's hilarious.
I just pray he doesn't listen to this podcast. But anyways, I was having migraines all the time. And when I started using essential oils and diffusing instead of burning candles, any type of candles, not just Bath and Body Works, I'm not just knocking them, but like any store-bought candles that I was using, I realized that when I diffused, instead of burning those candles constantly, I didn't have like these crazy migraines that I used to have all the time. So I still wanted a candle, though. Like, you just can't beat a candlelit bath. That's my favorite thing to do to relax. So I figured out how to make my own soy candles with my essential oils and started just making candles for myself and for a couple family members as gifts. And it's just so fun to like mix and match different oils to make the scents you want to make, and just, I don't know, coming up with different things and then naming them. Like, it's so fun. So I was like, I'm making these. I love them. My family members love them. I think other people might too. Mobile has a farmer's market. Let me take them there. And I was scared shitless, but you talked me through that. So thank God for you, because without that, I don't think this would have been started at all. So I really needed that extra push and the extra confidence to get out there. And when I went to my first farmer's market, I sold like over half of what I had brought, and I was just thankful for selling one candle. So once I sold more than one, I was like, okay, I can do this. And a couple weeks later, I was like, okay, I want to add sugar scrubs. So I added sugar scrubs and finished out my farmer's market year with candles and sugar scrubs. I did a couple vendor shows, and my mind has like been going wild since. Since then, I have added bath bombs, wax melts, and lip balms recently. And I've got a whole list of other things I can add. But it's just like I have more ideas than I have time for. So it's really cool to like see how Sonia was like, yeah, you need a creative outlet. You're a creator. And I can like see that now. Like I just made actually with all this pandemic stuff going on, I had a friend reach out and she works for a senior living center and they couldn't find hand soap anywhere. So she asked me if I could make her 100 hand soaps. So I just did an order for them and I'm like, wow, maybe I should add those to my line. But I'm not there yet. But it's just fun to like see how things progress and the different things that I can add. So that's where
No,
I'm at.
I love that. I saw your thing on the hand soaps the other day and I was like, oh my God, like look at her. Like every time I talk to you, you're like, oh, I'm going to add this. Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I love this. This was so easy. And it's just so exciting to see how excited you get. And this just knows that like you're in your zone of genius, because I'm sure there's some people listening to this, much like myself, where I'm like, I have zero interest in creating candles or any of these things, but I love those things and I will buy those things. You know what I mean? And it's just so funny because sometimes we get in our own head too. I'm like, oh, nobody's going to buy this. Everybody would make their own candles, or everybody will do their own chapsticks, or everybody will do this. And it's like, well, no, they don't. But that's just because we have a hard time thinking outside of ourselves. Like our egos get in the way of like, oh, everybody's only thinking about me, or what will people think, when really everybody else is all consumed about what they are thinking. Nobody gives a shit what the next, I shouldn't say doesn't give a shit, but they're not constantly thinking about what you're doing, like what you're creating. And that goes to show with like the marketing and the sales. Sometimes people have to see things 8 or 10 or 12 times before they'll take action on it. But we'll be like, oh gosh, I'm posting these candles again. I'm posting these candles again. Like everybody's just going to be irritated with me posting these candles again. But like the 10th time you do it, somebody's like, oh yeah, Arielle, I think she's doing candles now. It like clicks.
Yes. And that's, I mean, I've even had people like talk to me about them a couple times and not buy anything, which is totally fine. Like I'm just pumped to have a conversation about what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then like now there's some of like my best customers. Like I have people text me and be like, hey, can you make a bubble bath? Like, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, I mean, I probably can. So it's just fun to see like what people reach out and ask me to make them. And I don't know, the whole thing's just fun.
So let's talk about that a little bit, like the creating the momentum and you talking to people to the point where like people are now talking to you, because I know that there's a lot of fear in that too, when people are like, oh, I want to create my own business, or I want to create a side hustle, or sometimes I just have a message that I want to share with the world, whether that, you know, is in the form of like an MLM, or you're creating your own product, or maybe you just have some inspirational things that you want to share with more people. We get in our own head. So can you walk us through kind of like that process on like putting yourself out there? And I know you did the farmer's market, but you do so much beyond that. Like you've gone to other vendor fairs, you reach out to people on social media, you stop by businesses, you have a website now, you're doing way more than just going to farmer's markets. So kind of walk us through how that looks.
Well, for me, I feel like I'm like an introverted extrovert, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense, because I am too.
Yeah, so I would like to say that the more I've done it, the easier it gets. But every time I sign up for a show or go to a farmer's market or send somebody a message on Facebook or just talk to somebody, even in the store, and somehow it gets around to my business, I still like profusely sweat. Like, I still get nervous and like jumble over my words, and even thinking about it now, I'm starting to sweat. But it's really just like if I just have to tell myself that the worst thing they're going to tell me is no. And once I get over that, like I'm used to hearing no. Like I've heard it a ton in my life and it doesn't ever stop me. So why would I let it stop me now? So as soon as I got over that, I was like, I'm good to go. I might sweat a lot. I might not be able to get my words out completely how I want to, but I'm still going to have the conversation.
Yes. And I think it's important to note that it's just a conversation. I feel like so many people get hung up on like sales, you know, they're like, oh, I'm selling something. I don't want I don't want to sound creepy or salesy or something like that, but just think how your product could change their life or make them happier or more peaceful or more at ease, or maybe it's non-toxic and you just are like, oh, it's so important to have this in your life. Like what's more important? Yeah, like hearing the word no and just keeping yourself small, or getting your idea out into the world so that more people can love it just like you.
Yeah, the first time you said that to me, it was like life-changing, because I have never let like any of those self-doubt or self-talk, any of that get in my way anymore. And there was one person like specifically that I'd been talking to online, and I ended up just going for it and telling her about the business and stuff. And she's bought plenty of things. And just the other day she messaged me and was like, she got one of these gift boxes that I'm offering now, which we can get into, but
Yes, we will.
she had got one and she was like, I just want to say an extra thanks because my daughter loves your stuff too. And I know it's non-toxic and she can use it and I don't have to be worried about it. And that just like made my heart so happy, because like I am super protective about the things that Kendall uses too. So I would never want to put something out that kids could potentially be harmed from using, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was just excited that she was excited as I am about her kids being able to use my products.
I love that. And would you say that's kind of like your main motivator, your main why, is because you wouldn't use those things like with your family? Or
Yeah, I hate reading labels. Yeah, I'm just going out there that I don't want to spend the time reading your label and looking up all your ingredients to see if it's safe enough for my daughter to use. So if I can just cut all that out and make my own stuff for her to use, that's what I'm going to do. And if like it's not safe for my daughter to use, I'm not going to make it, because I wouldn't want other people's kids to not be able to use it.
So what's and maybe you know this, maybe you don't know this, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. What is one of like the main toxic ingredients in like a typical candle, and what would that look like in terms of, I know you said it caused migraines in you, but what can other people kind of look for in terms of toxins in like candles or other self-care products?
Well, anything, not even just candles, but anything that says fragrance in the label is like, oh, it just makes me so frustrated, because companies don't have to disclose like what's in fragrance. Like it just, whatever's
Is
in
it
it
like
is,
a catch-all for?
yeah, for
Okay.
literally anything that scents their stuff. And that just, even things that say like made with essential oils, if you look in the ingredients and it says fragrance in there, it's not all natural made with essential oils. There might be some essential oils in there, but there's other fragrance oil in there as well. So that is like one of my main pet peeves, like all the different Febreze or like Glade things that say made with lavender. Like, yeah,
You're
it
like,
might be a little
bullshit.
made with a lot of other things too, people. But even like different candles and stuff, a lot of the wicks have lead in them. And that's just, oh, it's so bad for you. So like look for a premium cotton wick candle made with soy wax instead of like petroleum wax. Like it's just the way things are marketed is so sneaky now that even when you think you're getting like a cleaner product, there's a really good chance that you aren't. So it's really hard. Like I said, I hate reading labels.
Yeah, and I think that goes for a lot of like cleaning products and things like that too. There's even cleaning products out there that say, you know, this is all natural, organic. And then you look at it and you're like, I don't like, what? None of this should even make sense.
I know, it's so frustrating. So that's like another thing is I switched all of our cleaning products to Just Thieves. Like it's literally one cleaner for every single thing that I clean, and I don't have to read labels. I don't have to worry about Kendall helping me clean anything. Like she loves to help me clean. So if I was using something that I didn't feel comfortable with her touching, I don't know what I would do.
I know what you mean. So, okay, since we're on the topic of like non-toxic living, I know this intrigues a lot of people and it can also seem very overwhelming because
many of my listeners are all or nothing type of people, where if we can't fix it all at once and throw everything out, then why do we even try? You know, it's like the going organic with your food. You throw everything and all of your cupboards in your fridge away and you go buy all organic, and then you wonder why you're broke because you've like quadrupled your grocery budget and you don't know how to cook with all organic food. So then you feel overwhelmed. The same thing can happen with cleaning, where you throw all of your cleaning products out or you throw all of your makeup out. It doesn't have to be like that. So what would you say is like the first steps if somebody is looking to maybe live a more non-toxic or chemical-free lifestyle?
Well, for me, it was my first step was switching to essential oils instead of candles. So as soon as my eyes were like open to essential oils, it was like, holy crap, I can use these for everything. So I just started like little by little. Instead of taking, like I used to take sleeping pills, instead of taking that, I switched to diffusing different oils for sleep. And then I looked at what I was using to like clean my face at night, and I switched to using essential oils for that, or witch hazel. You know, there's just different things that you can look at. I recommend looking at like things that you do every day and then just picking one thing from that list to switch to a more natural product at first. And once you start doing like one thing here and one thing here, then it's kind of like a snowball effect. And before you know it, you'll have almost all of your stuff replaced with non-toxic stuff. So it just takes a little bit of research, which that's why I was thankful for my essential oils, because like I'm in this group that has basically done all that research for me and they just tell me what I need to do. But I would say like the number one thing that anybody could switch, I would switch the cleaners, because that's the easiest thing to switch.
Yeah, because that's kind of like you can toss everything and use one for
Yes.
everything. And kind of going off of that too, what I do personally is anytime like I have a product that runs out, like for example, I'm kind of like walking through my house managing children, and I don't know, I just tend to have a better energy when I like can walk around and do podcasts. So I'm like in my bathroom right now and I'm looking at deodorants, right? And so that was a step for me, switching from, you know, like a basic, you know, a secret or something like that, to something that's a little more, it's better for you, it's better for the environment, it's better for your body and your family. And if my kid like takes a bite out of it, it's not going to kill her, right? So, but I didn't just throw everything in my makeup away. As I go through it and as I need to buy new, you know, like toothpaste, for example, or lotion or shampoo or floor cleaner, or even like things like coffee or vegetables, as I need it, I will do the research and kind of be like, okay, what's a healthy alternative here? Like, and I also think that it's important to note what's in your budget. Because I think a lot of times people can be overwhelmed with the price of some of these things, but just know that you're paying for quality versus quantity. And a lot of times you can use significantly less product when you're buying those chemical free or those all natural ones, because a little really does go a long way, because it's not been watered down with, you know, artificial oils or water or XYZ. It doesn't have all of these filler chemicals in it. The same thing with like dog food, just for example. There's a lot of dog foods out there who actually allow a certain amount of plastic in their dog food as a filler. Like, are you kidding me? But people don't know this because they don't take the time to read ingredients, because a lot of times they're like 100 things long, right? So it's just, as you start to replace the things in your house, maybe be like, okay, can I reasonably afford to maybe switch this right now? What are my options? And sometimes it's like a stepping stone. Like maybe you just go to a little bit better product. And then, you know, eventually down the road, you're like, oh, I want to buy the naturalist of all of the natural and blah, 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 blah. Or maybe you start making it on your own, because a lot of times you can make these things cheaper than you can buy them too. It just, what do you have more of, time or money, and what's important to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about these boxes and how people can get a hold of them. Because I know I me and my sister binged on your boxes for Christmas, and we ended up buying each other boxes. That was so funny.
You
They are
guys are the
incredible.
only ones that did that. I had a couple other like sisters do that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, I can't. But
so funny.
I have a big gift box that I did for Christmas, which comes with a candle. Gosh, what was it? A candle, a wax melt, a bath bomb, and a sugar scrub. Right? Yeah. Sorry.
I know. The other day, I still have a little bit of sugar scrub in the bath. Will's like, what is this brown container? Because like I use it, and so like the lettering like rubbed off or whatever. He's like, what the hell is this brown tub here? Like, you just don't mind. Don't just mind your own business, dear.
Oh gosh, guys. It's funny because Cody uses the sugar scrub on his hands like when he's working in the summer and they get really rough. So I'm like, just use some sugar scrub, hun.
Will used the white one, but the one pumpkin spice one is like it's darker.
Yeah.
What the hell is this? Anyways, I love that. So yes.
So I have those gift boxes, but right now, actually, I had a friend message me an idea about these quarantine boxes, and it's a box, and you get a sugar scrub and a lip balm and a succulent, and a little card that says "Quarantine sucks without you." So I started offering these, and let me just tell you how I was just thinking so small when I got my first boxes put together. I'm like, I'm just going to do 5. I don't want to be sitting on a bunch of succulents because I don't have a green thumb and I'll probably kill them. So I'm just going to make 5 boxes. And if I need more, I'll get more. And I announced these boxes and I sold 25 in the first hour.
Holy smokes. And I haven't even got to get one yet.
No, I've had like so many restocking issues right now because I was like so not prepared for this. So I'm out right now, but I'm going to be restocked by Tuesday or Wednesday. And I've got like boxes back ordered and I've got all these orders I need to fill, and it's all good problems. But I'm like, wow, I really had zero faith in myself when I launched these boxes. So it's been fun. It's been an interesting ride, but they are really cute. I mean, it's just something fun that you can send to like a friend or your mom or your sister or something. And a lot of people are sending me messages saying how happy just a little gift made them, you know, just something nice while everybody's stuck at home.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I always love like punny phrases like, haha, quarantine sucks with succulents. I don't know. I just find that kind of stuff like that's right up my alley. Like funny shirts that, you know, like I saw a shirt the other day and it says, I love peckers, but it had like a bunch of chickens on it. I'm like yep, I need this shirt. So like when I saw your first box go up and it says, you know, quarantine sucks, and I'm like, I love it. Like that is my style. So, and I do think it's, I like that you said, you know, I kind of underestimated myself because we do tend to come at things from like a cautious standpoint. Like I don't really know how this is going to go. And so I just want to note that this can go one of 2 ways. I think it's awesome that you took action. And this is all stuff that you've done after we've worked together. So like this isn't things that I've helped with. And maybe you've had other help, but this is just things that you've done with like the tools and skills and resources that you have, and you did the work for this. So I want to make note of that, but also that we can get in our own heads and you're like, no, I'm just going to do it. Even if I just order 5 boxes. And a lot of times the things that we think won't take off are the things that people love the most. Right. And it's just like, if you're starting a business and you create all of this product without knowing what your target market is or who you're talking to, sometimes you can sit on a ton of product with nobody. So it's kind of like a test or a tease. Like, okay, I'm going to put this out. We're going to see how it does. because I can always do more. So it was actually a smart thing that you did that, but I just think that it's funny because you're like, oh, this isn't going to be that great. And all of a sudden you're sold out, you're going to be backed up. And this has kind of been the recurring theme for like your whole business though. I mean, people just love what you're doing and what you're about. And I feel like you as a person and your values are really relatable to other people because you care, but you also, you know, you care a lot about other people and you want to pour your heart and your soul into your products. And I think that shows and people appreciate that.
Well, I hope so. Like, well, I really love it. Like, I never want people to think that like I'm just doing it to make money, because this just makes me so happy, and like bringing products that I know are safe into other families' homes makes me, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't want to cry.
But that's it though. Like, it's the emotion, it's the feeling, it's your intention and your mission and your vision behind it. Like, you're not out there just trying to make a quick buck. Like, you really put a lot of time, energy, and effort into these, and you want to help other people in the process. And I know that people feel that and they understand that. And I think that that's why you're doing so well, is because the intention is there and you make people feel good and they remember that. People will remember how you made them feel. It does not matter about the product, because in the grand scheme of things, like, the candles will burn out, people will get more, but like, how did you make them feel when that candle was burning or when they purchased that product?
Right. That's what, yeah. I mean, I always try and focus on like things that make me happy. So let's make other people happy too.
Absolutely. So how can people, let's start to kind of wrap this up. Well, first thing, what do you want to leave listeners with? Like, what's their takeaway?
Oh man. So I was thinking about this because I think on my last podcast, my takeaway was just go for it. And I honestly feel like that's almost what the takeaway should be now too. Because if I wouldn't have just put myself out there and went for it a year ago, like put myself out there to work with you or put myself out there to launch this business, even though I was scared of what people would say or think, and put myself out there with these boxes, like I would have no idea the things that I'm capable of. So I just think it's a really cool journey for people to just go for it, and these ideas that they've had forever, or, you know, these thoughts or plans, like they should just do it. Like you don't know until you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the worst thing that happens is if it doesn't work out, like nobody is going to remember it. In a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you could at least look back and be like, well, I gave it a shot, you know?
Yeah. You can't regret giving something your all. So you might as well just go for it.
I love that. So how can people order these boxes? How can they get more of you? Where are you like hanging out? Tell us all the things.
Hanging out at home, Sasha.
I'm hanging out in my basement, just by myself, 6 feet away from everybody else. Like,
literally. Okay, so I have a website, which I'm super excited about because that didn't even seem possible forever ago, but like a year ago. But you can find my website at www.divineoilco.com, or you can find my Facebook page that is Divine Oil Co. by Arielle Kuchel. And I'm also on Instagram, but it's just my personal. So it's Arielle Kuchel.
I like it. Yeah, they can follow you there and see your family and all that stuff. So now my son's farting on my arm, so that's just quarantine life, right? I get all the kids with me in the podcast and we just make it happen anyways. We don't wait for a perfect moment.
Right. Whatever.
All right. No, if you have kids or don't have kids and you wait for the perfect moment, you're gonna be waiting a hell of a long time. So just we just figure it out, don't we? All right. Well, I freaking loved this. I feel like we could probably talk for another hour or two, but for the sake of respecting your time and everybody who's listening to this, thank you. This was
I think exactly what I needed to hear, what other people might need to hear, and just go for it. I mean, not the only thing holding you back is you.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
This was awesome. We'll have to do this again maybe next year and see how far you've come in this last year. So
Can't wait.